Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwin. You are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue talking about the orcs as we get into the Flyboys. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K content every single day. And stay to the end of the video because we do have a giveaway for you guys. With that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Flyboys. It takes a special kind of orc to strap himself into the pilot seat of a ramshackled aircraft and hurtle into aerial combat. Namely a bonkers one. Renowned as frothing loons, even amongst the speed freaks, these orc aces scream through the skies at breathtaking velocities and will cheerfully approach any target head-on, no matter how massive or dangerous. From one end of the galaxy to the other, deranged orc flyboys hurtle into battle with the sole intent of creating as much high-speed carnage as they can. Many fly solo, giving themselves overblown names such as Captain Killwigs, the Black Baron, and Flyboy Dakafrag, in order to strike terror into their enemies and impress their peers. Others form entire squadrons of ace flyboys and set out to create as much destruction as possible, their legends growing with each retelling. Amongst the most infamous of these aerial murder mobs is the Death Squadron, led by the flyboss Commander Uzgob. The Death Squadron is one of the most iconic formations of orc flyboys in recent memory, surviving dozens of flights in the bloody war between warboss Badthug and Grimlug. Uzgob's airborne loons have been responsible for the deployment of the Ganter Buster Bomb in Scrap Alley, the sinking of warboss Grimlug's battleship, and the aerial deployment of over 5,000 angry squigs into Grimlug's main encampment. And of course there have been other famed squadrons. The Death Skull Aces, known as the Blue Bombers, have been the terror of friend and foe alike, above the jungles of Armageddon for 3 years now, their Blitzer Bomber wings screaming down to scrape the canopy with every suicidal attack run. And of course, Mad Black's Fire Skull Flyers are a band of gun-happy Evil Sun pilots whose aerial races have been known to literally set the skies above Ryza on fire for miles in every direction. Meanwhile, the Imperial Knights of the Night World, Quinella II, learned to fear the short-lived but deadly Goth Flyers, known simply as the Nuttas, whose repeated flying headbutts took a shocking toll on the ancient war machines of that world. While each Flyboy Flyer is unique in their own right, there are 3 distinct types: the Dakajets, the Blitzer Bombers, and the Wazbomb Blastajets. Streaking into battle through war-scorched skies, a Dakajet's massive thruster leaves an oil contrail of black smoke in its wake, while the plane's huge wing-mounted supershooter spits hails of bullets at its foe. Though not as nimble as the aircraft of some other races, Dakajets are capable of incredible turns of speed that make them fearsome dogfighters. It also helps that the orcs fly like complete lunatics, taking risks that Imperial pilots would see as pure insanity. Dakajet pilots are great believers in quantity over quality. As such, they ensure that mechs strap every gun available to the fuselage of their aircraft. In the heat of battle, while corkscrewing madly through formations of enemy aircraft, the Flyboys cut loose with their full arsenal. They maintain that long, uncontrolled bursts that are the best way to ensure targets go down in blazing ruin. Some Dakajet pilots have even been known to smash out their cockpit glass with the butts of their sluggas in order to add their own pistol fire to the barrage. This can have unforeseen and spectacular consequences during void warfare. Dakajets fill the dual strategic niche of air-to-air dogfighters and air-to-ground assault craft, not least because the pilots attack every target in sight. Armored columns and infantry formations alike find themselves racked by furious firestorms as the Dakajets hurl low overhead, while enemy pilots feel panic building as swarms of these ramshackle greenskin aircraft race towards them with absolutely no consideration for their own survival. Of particular note is the fearsome Flying Edbutt, favored amongst the most deranged flyboys, who, unable to resist getting stuck in at point-blank range, simply crank their throttles and soar headlong into their victims, bellowing "Wah!" all the way. Needless to say, the impact of several dozen tons of scrap metal, jet fuel, and munitions moving at breakneck speed is enough to decapitate even an Imperial Titan on a good day, and a single such kamikaze maneuver has on occasion turned the course of an entire war. And of course, there's always the Blitzer Bombers. Even on their best day, the average orc flyboy has little patience for trajectories, payload arcs, and all other boring bits involved in high-altitude bombings. Blitzer Bomber pilots instead ensure that their massively unsubtle boom bombs land more or less on target by simply dropping them from point-blank range. A Blitzer Bomber pilot will throw their aircraft into a screaming nosedive their terrified grot crewmen pulling the bomb release lever at the last possible moment. After a loud clank and some alarming juddering, the payload plunges groundward and explodes with a thunderous bang. Meanwhile, with bombs away, the crackling flyboy pulls up, hopefully. Such maneuvers do not always end up well, and most grots have to be forcibly nailed into their bombardiers' nests to avoid them bailing out before takeoff. Said, when a boom bomb does score a direct hit, the resulting carnage is more than worth the risk. These homogeneous explosives reduce fortifications to blazing rubble, turn tanks into craters, and generally rip enormous holes in the enemy's lines for the foot-slogging orcs to pour through. And then there are the burn-a-bombers, the inevitable byproduct of the orcs' love for speed, fire, and the desire to combine these things while killing something. Strapped with as many incendiary bombs and rockets as is physically feasible, burn-a-bombers streak low over the battlefield, raining death upon enemy infantry. Wild-eyed burn-a-boy pilots of these craft like to watch their targets burn up close and crispy. As such, they regularly return to base with their vehicle's undercarriage streaking with gore and scorch marks. Burn-a-bombers sometimes carry scorcher missiles, armament that renders them even more deadly. These corkscrewing warheads make a mockery of fortifications, exploding in pyrotechnic showers that drive their victims from cover, or else cook them alive, with defenses turning into death traps. And then finally the Waz-bomb Blast-a-Jets, when the blocky silhouettes of these flyers fill the sky. Any enemy knows to run for cover. Custom-built airborne death machines, bristling with humming force fields and crackling madcap weaponry, Waz-bomb Blast-a-Jets are ferociously shooty and surprisingly resilient in incoming fire. They are built by the demented mechboy pilots who, fed up with seeing the flyboys having all the fun, create the best scrap and cunning inventions into their own personal aircraft. Waz-bomb pilots compete to see whose personalized creations can blow up the most targets the fastest and in the most hilariously spectacular way. The mechs thoroughly enjoy such contests, for not only are they entertaining, but every successful kill ensures more scrap to be looted at the battlefield's end. The experience is somewhat less entertaining for the enemy, who will find themselves subjected to aerial bombardment by a bewildering array of lethal weaponry. Custom megacannons spit searing streams of raw energy into the foe, blasting them to atoms, while underslung smash guns snatch up their targets in localized force fields and squash them like grut skulls under a rut herder's boot. Some Blast-a-Jets mount teleporter mega blasters, whose shimmering beams grab their victims and hurl them through the warp to either rematerialize high in the air, fatally emerge inside their solid objects, or be torn apart and distributed literally over the wide area. Meanwhile, return fire rattles from the Blast-a-Jet's thick armor, or rebounds from the wobbling force field bubble they project. One of the most infamous orc flyboys and perhaps the finest orc fighter ace ever to have lived was the Crimson Baron. This aggressive and speed-crazed greenskin gained notoriety throughout the Ultima Segmentum for his unmatched piloting skills and his ability to pick off enemy flyers like a bird of prey. Much of the Crimson Baron's success can be credited to his powerful ramshackled aircraft, the Crimson Daka-Jet. Streaking into battle through war-scorched skies and leaving oily contrails of black smoke in his wake, the Baron's Daka-Jet was capable of some incredibly tight turns, which made him a fearsome dogfighter. The Crimson Baron always believed in quantity over quality, and ensured that his Daka-Jet was strapped with every gun a mechboy had in his shop. In the heat of battle, while corkscrewing madly through the enemy aircraft, the Crimson Baron would cut loose with his full arsenal and slaughter enemy pilots left and right. It truly was a spectacle for other greenskins to watch, as a long and uncontrolled burst from his wing-mounted super shooters took down the foe in a blazing ruin. At times, the wild twists and turns would point towards the infantry below, and both greenskin and the enemy ground formations would be decimated by his roaring barrage of bullets. The Crimson Baron's true skills, however, were showcased during his air-to-air dogfights, where every enemy he faced felt the panic from the furious firestorm at their tail. Orc legends say that at the height of his skills, the Crimson Baron can pick off 2 or 3 enemy fighters with a single stream of bullets. The skies would fill with the black smoke of downed aircraft, and the only thing in the sky would be the glorious red Daka-Jet of the Crimson Baron. While the majority of greenskin pilots stenciled enemy kills onto the hulls of their plane, the Crimson Baron's Daka-Jet remained free of any marks. Whenever any orc made a comment about this lack of record-keeping, the Crimson Baron would remind them that if he bothered with marking every kill he'd made, he would need a flying gargant. Like all truly murderous orcs, his success on the battlefield was only matched with his ego, and the only thing that could drag the famous pilot from the sky was boasting about his skills to other flyboys in his clan. Eventually, the Crimson Baron got the attention of the foul-tempered and ambitious evil son war boss, Skullcrumpa, and instead of smashing the arrogant flyboy to a bloody pulp, the war boss convinced the Baron to join him in a quest to carve out a greenskin realm in the Ultima Segmenta. With the promise of more death-choked skies, the Crimson Baron flew off alongside Wog Skullcrumpa. They eventually landed on the Imperial world of Cadram, and as the Greenskin assault tore into the planet's outer defenses, the White Scar Space Marine chapter flocked to the besieged world's distress signal. When the White Scars launched an aerial assault, dozens of Ork planes came bursting out of cloud cover with the distinctive red Dakka jet of the Crimson Baron at their head. Zigzagging like a bat out of hell, the Crimson Baron was having the time of his life watching Imperial flyers nosedive to their death. Even the legendary vehicles of the Adeptus Astartes couldn't match the wild tactics and just dumb luck of this ace fighter. There came a point where his Dakka jet seemed to defy the laws of gravity. As the White Scar zeroed in on their target, the Crimson Baron would somehow change course and end up right behind the Space Marines, shooting off a stream of bullets that landed their mark every time. The only thing louder than the weapon fire and the explosions was the Crimson Baron's laughter as his enemies dropped like flies. However, things would change. Completely unbeknownst to the Imperial and the Greenskin combatants, the world of Cadram was once a tomb world of the reclusive Necron-Nihilak dynasty. Following the awakening of the slumbering Necrons beneath the planet's surface, the Crimson Baron eventually met his first defeat at the hands of a Necron Doomscythe. Surviving the crash, the Crimson Baron soon took to the skies again in a borrowed Dakka jet from a rival Phyta ace. In a subsequent battle, he engaged aerial forces from both the Necrons and the White Scars during an attack on Fellstorm Airfield. During this battle, the Crimson Baron got his revenge by shooting down 4 Necron Doomscythes before he was shot out of the air by a Space Marine missile launcher. It is completely unknown if the Crimson Baron survived. Thank you guys so much for listening. I will talk to you guys in tomorrow's video. Ask questions in the comment section below if you need to. And thanks for watching. This was Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first.